Is it time to buy Nvidia, stock symbol NVDA, like Nancy Pelosi's doing right now? Or I guess, should I say Nancy Pelosi's husband, because people in Congress can't trade stocks. That would be considered insider trading. So it has to be just her husband. It's not her. But should we be buying Nvidia shares like Nancy Pelosi's husband? So we're going to talk about that. We're going to talk about Nvidia. We're going to go through the charts. We're going to even go through some of the recent transactions that's been made by the Pelosi family here to see what kind of track record they have just in recent history. So it's easy to be right from a long-term perspective, to be really good from a bullish standpoint when the market's going up for the past 13 years. It's a different thing when you're buying stocks right before there is a market crash. And that's exactly what we got when Nancy Pelosi's husband bought Disney, Roblox, and Google. Google's down 25%. Disney's down 39% year to date. And guess what? Roblox is down 60% year to date. These are all option contracts she purchased that were going to expire in late 2022 and late 2023. She bought them last December, and she is currently down big time on all of those. So just because she's buying something, does that mean that we should necessarily buy it too? I mean, on the surface, it sounds like a great idea. Hey, this is the Speaker of the House. She knows things that we don't know. Maybe we should be buying because she's buying. Remember, there's a big stimulus bill that's trying to make its way through Congress right now into the president's desk. It would make it to where we incentivize and subsidize companies to start bringing semiconductor manufacturing back to the United States, which would help a lot of these semiconductor companies and therefore ultimately help their share price. That's why people believe that because Nancy Pelosi's buying Nvidia, it must be a good idea, that she knows that this bill is ultimately going to help the stock's price out. And maybe that's true, and maybe it's trading $20 or $30 higher in the next couple of weeks. But just doing it off of that basis alone can oftentimes be a bad way. Let's look at Nvidia. Let's look at the broader market too as it pertains to Nvidia. But first, make sure that you like and subscribe to this channel so that you can be updated each and every time that I do one of these videos, live streams, all sorts of cool things going on in the community tab and everything else. So check that out. Hit the little bell button so you can be notified as well. Let's get to the charts. Now, over the course of the past couple weeks, we've been watching this bullish wedge. I've been talking about it on the live stream some, and we got that breakout last week. It broke out, and then we got the follow through today. But then it hits this 50-day moving average and pulls back some. Now, it doesn't have a real big history with this 50-day moving average, so I don't take it all that serious. Nonetheless, it is a shooting star candle that we're getting here, and that's also considered a bearish candle. That might be a reason to take a little bit of precaution right here. But while you have this bullish wedge, there's also even a bigger bullish wedge that has been formed. Now, when you draw this pattern a little bit differently here, you'll see that it actually didn't break out of this resistance here that also kind of forms with that bottom line right here, another bullish wedge. So it's not quite as narrow as the previous one was, but nonetheless, it is resistance, and it did seem like it struggled with that quite a bit today. So in the days ahead, if this stock is going to break out, whether it's because of the bill, whether it's because Nancy Pelosi says so, it's going to have to break through this resistance that it has struggled with since mid-April. Now, if it can break through that level, then we want to start watching this resistance that goes back to January of this year. This resistance sits at about 208, 209 per share. So if it gets up to this level here, that's where you're going to want to see this price bog down here when it starts to test this layer of resistance. Now, let's not just limit ourselves to just the daily chart. We need to look at the weekly too. And on the weekly, you have this massive declining channel that has been trading in since it reached its highs back in November of this past year. So right here is your declining channel. It is yet to break through that declining channel. It's pretty much parallel channels. It's really a nice pattern that has developed. And what you're also seeing here too is over the last 3 months, it has stayed on the bottom level of this channel. So there's not been a lot of momentum to get it back up to this upper side. But again, if it can break through that bullish wedge that I highlighted on the daily chart, and it can push through that 209 resistance level, then there's not a ton of resistance that's going to hit it until it gets up to around this declining resistance at the 235 to 240 level, depending on how long it would take to get there. And then at that point, that's where I would really be wanting to take some profits. But that is going to take a lot from Nvidia, and it's also going to take a lot from the semiconductors chart, stock symbol SMH. Now, again, daily chart here does not look all that flattering at all. In fact, you got this massive layer of resistance at 214. And at first today, I thought, okay, we're going to break through this resistance, right? This resistance, it goes all the way back to the beginning of 2021. In fact, you can even say it goes back to late 2020. And when it tried to break out, as it's done a couple of times before over the last month or so, it gave up those gains and quickly dropped right back below this resistance level. And we saw that again today. It looked like it was going to break out. The market was bullish. Everything was bullish to begin the day. It breaks out and then it gave it back. So from a person who uses a top-down trading strategy that wants the S&P 500, wants the sector, wants the industry, and wants the stock to all be in alignment with each other, you may have some bullish developments outside of that shooting star candle pattern that is setting up on Nvidia, but that same bullishness isn't being reciprocated with SMH. And then you can also take that same theory to the S&P 500 and say, hey, look, we're still in a bear market. What confidence do we have that Nvidia is going to just buck this trend? It's already down huge this year, 47% off of its all-time highs. What gives us the assurances that this stock is really going to be able to buck the trend of the overall market, which it has not been able to do so far here in 2022, and march higher if this market ultimately continues to pull back? So we have to weigh all these things that we're thinking about here. Yes, short term, maybe the bill passes and maybe Nvidia rockets higher and you can maybe score 5 or 10% off of the trade. But from a long-term perspective, I definitely don't like it. And I think even from a short-term perspective, with what we saw today in the market where we had a nasty reversal following a large gap higher, I think that it's a very, very difficult play to be making. I mean, let's think about it. Can Nancy necessarily stop the decline that we've seen in the NASDAQ so far this year? No. But the NASDAQ has a huge influence on Nvidia. It has a huge influence on the semiconductors. If the NASDAQ's not doing good, nothing else is really going to be doing good in the tech space either. I mean, not even Buffett can change the tides of this market. Do we really think that Nancy's going to be able to do the same? I joke about it all the time on my Instagram account and everything else. But when it gets down to the reality of trading, it's fun to think that, okay, maybe Nancy's onto something here and we can just follow her right into this trade and make big coin off of it. But when you look at her past track record here from her trades that she made in December and what has become of those calls and Google and Roblox and in Disney, Disney's down 39%, Roblox is down 60%, and Google is down 25%. It doesn't really look that good for Nvidia. So for me personally, there's no way I'm going to chase her into this stock. First of all, I don't want to say chase her, but there's no way I'm going to play this stock just because she's playing it as well. So that's my take on the Nvidia stock. Hope you enjoyed this video. Make sure to like and subscribe. Make sure to click the join button down below so you can get all my stock market research each and every day. And be sure to tune into my live streams each week. I do them on Wednesdays at 4:30 p.m. Eastern time. I'd love to see you guys there. I answer your questions. I take your stock charts and we go over all of them together. So thank you guys and God bless.